Mr. Cooper.
There we go. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And with the greatest of respect to Mr. Massey and Monsieur Villemur, I see no reason why between now and when the House goes back that this committee can allocate 2 meetings, 4 hours. I don't think that's much to ask. It seems like some members would prefer to take the vacation off or to prefer to be in their ridings. Well, I'd like to be in my riding as well. But this committee has important work to do in the face of a very damning report from the Ethics Commissioner with respect to the conduct of the former chair of Sustainable Development Technology Canada, better known as the Liberals' billion-dollar green slush fund. I just want to say, before I get into why its time is of the essence, that I am astounded by the remarks of my friend Mr. Badaway in terms of his characterization that conservatives are playing politics and that this is about political games. And he said that conservatives have been on some sort of diatribe, those were his words, over the past year. What is he talking about? Has he not read the Auditor General's report that found that 400 million taxpayer dollars improperly went out the door? That 330 million taxpayer dollars were funneled from the Green Slush Fund into companies of board members. $330 million. Of that, $76 million went into companies of board members as they deliberated and voted at board meetings to funnel money into their own companies or companies that they have interest in. Those were the findings of the Auditor General. On top of that, there were 186 conflicts of interest, and he says it's political games, it's politics. I'll tell you what it is. It's liberal corruption. And he should be embarrassed to be part of a government that over the past 9 years has resulted in a culture of corruption that starts at the top, starts with the Prime Minister, that has made its way through all aspects of this government, including this billion-dollar green slush fund, which one department official characterized as sponsorship-level corruption. And we have now a report from the Ethics Commissioner that found that the former chair, who was handpicked by none other than former Industry Minister Navdeep Bains, the Prime Minister's best pal.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Badaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Relevance?
Yeah, Mr. Badaway, the same goes for Mr. Cooper, and I was waiting for Mr. Bruck to raise a point of order, but
I'm sure
as you can see,
I viewed his entire intervention as relevant.
yes, well, as you can see, I give quite a bit of leeway, so I'll let you continue, Mr. Cooper, but let's try to. I think we know where everyone stands. Yeah. We can probably proceed to votes fairly quickly, and Mr. Perkins can catch his flight. So I'll yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and. I'm going to get into right now why it's important that we have these hearings. We have a report from the Ethics Commissioner, a damning report that found that the Liberal-appointed former chair of the Green Slush Fund broke the law, violated ethics laws by contravening on multiple occasions the Conflict of Interest Act. More specifically, the report of the Ethics Commissioner found that the chair broke the law when she moved 2 motions at Green Slush Fund board meetings that resulted in one of her companies, NR Store, to receive nearly $220,000 in taxpayer money. That is a case of straight-up self-dealing, straight-up conflicts of interest, straight-up corruption, and now she has been found guilty. And so, given the report, it's important that we get to it, to hear from the Ethics Commissioner and to hear from Ms. Verschaeren. There is no reason why this should not happen for almost 2 months. With respect to the Ethics Commissioner's report, I think it's also important to note that it is narrow in scope and that it needs to be read alongside the damning Auditor General's report, which was released in June. And with respect to Ms. Verschaeren and the need for her to appear at least for 2 hours, and why I think there is a need to hear from her sooner rather than later, and certainly not when we go back in 2 months, is the fact that the Ethics Commissioner specifically looked at only 2 instances where she had, in what he determined was conduct that amounted to a conflict of interest when she moved those 2 motions that resulted in $220,000 being funneled to Enerstor. But when one reads the Auditor General's report, the Auditor General identified 20 additional conflicts involving Ms. Verschaeren, where she participated in and voted in favor of motions that resulted in monies being funneled from the Green Slush Fund to companies that she has an interest in. Those additional 20 conflicts involve a further $2,560,000, nearly $2.6 million that went to companies that she has an interest in addition to the $217,000 that the Ethics Auditor General identified and that the Ethics Commissioner looked into, in which he found Ms. Verschaeren guilty of violating the Conflict of Interest Act. And so it seems to me that based upon the Auditor General's report, that there may in fact be much more work for the Ethics Commissioner to do to investigate whether Ms. Verschaeren contravened the Conflict of Interest Act multiple other times in 20 cases identified by the Auditor General of conflict. And so it underscores why we need to hear from Ms. Verschaeren sooner rather than later. She needs to come before a committee and she needs to address these 20 additional conflicts, and then based upon her testimony, additional steps can be taken, including referring the matter to the Ethics Commissioner to undertake a further investigation. So I have more to say, but I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.